What up, everybody? You guys are tuned in to another episode of the Business is Blooming podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Macblunts, and today I got a special guest for you. I got Mr. J710, aka Joshua Sheets. I'm excited to have this brother on the episode today, man. This guy has been around for 20 plus years in the industry. It's been running with some of the legendary figures like Ed Rosenthal. He's an author, and today, man, I think it's gonna be a dope ass episode, man. So, first off, like always, Josh, where you from, bro?
I'm from Tacoma, Washington. The town. Tacoma's kind of like a birthplace, a lot of the culture in Washington. It really goes hard as far as the underground medical scene that's going on now. There's a lot of recs here that are real good. Our influencers are top notch. A lot of the guys associated with Tacoma, like the top members of the Dab Stars, people just down the way in Olympia, like Harry Dabs. You got guys like G, like the homie G and his brand Pushing G's. I think his Instagram right now is Dab with G. Shout out Dab with G. And then we're just here, man, repping Tacoma, doing our thing, growing the best weed that we possibly can. Been doing it the whole time. I know everything is kind of like Cali centric and forum centric, and that's just not our vibe. So tonight we're really going to talk about the other side of things, as far as like there are giant periods of my life where a computer is not involved in any way, shape, or form, and that's a big part of the Tacoma culture, is just getting out, getting to the parks, seeing everyone, getting around, hustling, shaking a hand, making a friend.
Right on, man. Well, I'm so glad that you're here, bro. I think this is gonna be a great one. So what are your areas of expertise, man, and how long have you been doing this? I know I mentioned it in the opening credits, man, but why don't you tell the guys a little bit about yourself and your expertise?
So I'm a grower. First and foremost, I'm a grower. I'm a horticulturist. On the square side, I've been a nurseryman for a number of years, just like running regular nurseries, making millions of dollars, selling regular flowers for guys that run these joints. I'm a consummate professional when it comes to gardening. So a lot of times at my age, I end up running crews, or I end up having like trim crews, grow crews, consulting for spots, working with 502s, stuff like that. So right now, I mean, my real credentials are like writer, published author, cannabis consultant, and grower, and I consider myself a hydroponicist. So that's a specialist in hydroponics. I love growing in soil, and I love nature, and I love outside just as much as the next guy. But my real thing is getting it in at home where I'm comfortable and everything is perfect.
Yeah, I love it, man. I remember when I first, matter of fact, bro, my first grow ever was a hydroponic rinky dink setup, man. I tell the story a lot, bro. They always say that newbies shouldn't start off in hydroponics, man, and I completely dispel that myth with my first grow. So I mean, I wasn't as successful as I am now, but I did grow a plant hydroponically, which leads me to my next question, bro. So what are you smoking, man? I want to take a time out, man. Everybody pull out your bong, light your blunt, fire up your dab rig, man, and let's get busy. Cheers.
Yeah, get your blunts lit. I'm smoking on the Tacoma Terminator cut. So that's a S1 selection of Afgoo. We grabbed it from Greenhouse Seeds in our hand. Basically, he kind of low-key ran a straight. I was smoking on the Tacoma Terminator cut. This is a Afgoo S1 that we selected and ran a bunch of. We grabbed those from Greenhouse Seeds in our Han. He low-key kind of did a Strain Hunters California and ended up picking Afgoo as one of the cuts that he wanted to run with. We don't know where he procured it particularly, but running out the seed lots, I'm pretty confident from growing that when I was a kid that we found expressions that perfectly match, and that's pretty damn hard to do, just grabbing some random seed and throwing it. So we think that he found a legitimate cut. and we found an outlier in it with a zippier high and a mustier aroma. It's almost like eye burning when you open the bag. It's got to be the loudest weed I've ever grown in my entire life. So we selected that guy. We set him to the side. We dedicated him back to the city. There hasn't been a cut here in the city that ran with the city since maybe the Pez or Purple Indica, which are kind of some of the Tacoma staples.
Okay.
So we're doing a cut back to the city. Yep, and we're running it out. So we've got the Tacoma Terminator. One thing about it is, since it's an S1 selection and we picked an outlier, the chances are that if you grab it and you copycat it and then try to reverse it from there and make another seed lot, that the chances are that it's not gonna pass on the traits that are desirable in it, and it's gonna be quite a different thing when you go ahead and try to reverse it like that. So my lawyer is not too happy with it, but essentially that's kind of a baked-in patent protection, and people out there are free to use that trick whenever you want, you know. And one thing I gotta say about purchasing seed and growing seed is you need to pop as much as you can when you can, and you got to be really picky about what you buy. But the most important thing is having a good idea of the type of seed that you have and what it's going to do, because those two things are interrelated and can't be separated.
Okay. And for just for shits and giggles, bro, if you remember, do you remember what the lineage is of the Afgoo? Or is it Afgooey or is it Afgoo?
It goes by a lot of different names and it's spelled a lot of different ways. So it's Afgoo, Afgooey, that type of thing. He labeled it Afgooey S1. I don't know the actual lineage of that guy. That's a type of thing where you would really need to go back and ask one of the Cali guys, hey, what is this? What is this cut? 9 out of 10, the lineage of that type of thing is murky. Anyways, I think I've asked people that tout themselves as sort of California strain historians or strain historians in general, like super forum geeks, like that dirtbag Matt Riot. I've asked those guys, and they don't really know what the lineage of the Afgooey actually is per se, but it's an older cut, and it's got a real distinctive aroma to it and flavor. It's got kind of like a melon rind kind appeal to it. It's a nice kind bud. We definitely found a grouping of expressions that was really close to that. Looking at the expressions and the breakdown of it, it was pretty evenly laid out, and it really looked like what our Hans said it was after the fact, an S1 seed lot. So we were happy with that. We're always happy when we deal with one of those guys and things works out. Right now we run here 50 strains. So that means we've dealt with, 35, 40 different breeders, quote unquote, or guys that make seed and sell them online at this point. There's a lot there. There's a lot of drama there. Those guys aren't great. Some of their work is amazing. Some of the guys that do the amazing work are straight up dirtbags. And it's just not the best environment, especially for people getting into a hobby and getting into it. And I just like, to new guys, to people listening, to people who are in love with a breeder for no apparent reason, I advise caution, because at the end of the day, we're all drug dealers, and you're going to see these guys make drug dealer moves, and it's going to hurt your little feelers,
Hey, I got a question. I asked this question on my last podcast from someone that had a whole bunch of years in the game, and I'm asking you the same, man. What's your ideal? What's your definition between a breeder and a pollen chucker?
Okay, in Washington, okay, there's a problem in cannabis with nomenclature, right? And the definitions that we use, because cannabis guys are sort of jazz cabbage freestylers at heart and independent rebel dudes.
For sure.
It's not really like a huge copacetic connection with academia and the modern current nomenclature used for stuff. Being a breeder in regular horticulture is not a big deal. Typically, the company that you work for owns the actual fucking work at the end of the day. So you're kind of a nobody. It's pretty rare with all the mundane plants of regular horticulture that anyone even gets any renown at all for making something. You kind of got to be like pretty game changing with the plant that you're working with. These guys are sort of just like a person growing should run 20 to 50 probably of whatever they run. So that's a lot of fucking money to give one of these guys. And what they're doing is just rubbing their hands and hoping to get in the way of that. What a guy's got to do because they're there is grab the building blocks and then make stuff himself and run that seed lot and work from there. And I would highly advise that. I would highly advise getting away from forum era guys, from people who are selling seed online, from people who claim to be part of the culture. I'll never tell. I barely talk about things like the culture because it's
no, we have to be talked about because I this is something new to me, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is something new to me. This is something that I'm immersing myself in, and I'm noticing I'm getting deeper and deeper, and names starting to ring. But people, what is the culture? You know, I don't want to get blindsided by and thinking that, you know, because as of now, little Macblunts that's building blocks in the industry doesn't know the ugly side of the industry. You know what I mean? I still think it's
that's a great
everybody
place to
hold
be.
these signs and hold hands and smoke joints and pass it, you know?
Yeah, you got to be careful. We got a spot up here south of Tacoma called Rainbow Valley. It used to be real famous for hippie stuff. You go there and people would get, they get their little things that they get off on, you know what I'm saying, at the little Rainbow Valley hippie situation. And the thing is, when you go there, we'd always really be like, don't trust dude. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing is that these guys come off real nice, these deadhead dudes, and at the end of the day, you end up getting ripped off on some fake acid or some shit. Damn. So up here, we had enough interaction with them to kind of know that was just a hustle. Like a person that comes in and is like, oh, peace and love, and it's about this and that. You got to really watch that shit. You got to watch these guys like 6 months to a year to kind of see if you enjoy their vibe. And you're going to see all of them do like some human fuck shit in the course of them being on IG lives, selling seeds, running deals with people. You know what I mean? Like, I think Burner spelled Bodie's name wrong last year. It's just there's just like a laundry list of shit that happens like that. That's just kind of like, some of it's stoner shit and some of it's downright disrespectful. And it becomes difficult for especially a new guy to kind of sort through that.
Yeah.
I don't have like a guide, brother, of like who's good and who's bad. And I want each person to kind of get involved and feel it out themselves.
Yeah. All right, man. So why is cannabis important to you personally? I know why I do it. I know why, the people around me do it, but from a veteran to a veteran, I'm pretty sure we probably got the same reasons why, but I want to hear out your mouth. Why is cannabis important for you?
So for me, cannabis sativa, right, as it was logged in the books at one point years and years ago. Obviously now we've hybridized it and worked with it and moved the plant around quite a bit, but the sativa word in taxonomy means good health. My daughter's name is Sativa. Shout out Sativa. But
man, beautiful, man. Beautiful.
It made parent teacher conferences interesting. You know what I'm saying? I talked a lot about garlic and about onions because those are Allium sativum and Annuum sativum, and those promote good health. Like cannabis for me promotes good health like garlic or onions do. I don't see any difference. I think that original taxonomy was dead tits on.
Wow, that's beautiful, man.
Kind of my take on that. It's for everything, man. For physical health, for mental health, to cool out, to have fun, to enhance a situation. For recreation, for medication.
So
just for
you brought up the medicinal side of cannabis, man. I know you are heavily involved in the medicinal side of cannabis in Washington, man. Why don't you go into a little bit about that and tell the people that may be watching in Washington, what's the deal?
Man, medical cannabis in Washington has taken a lot of hits over the years. Some people would even think that it doesn't even exist anymore, but that's not true. I'm a medical patient. I got a card in my pocket I could pull out and show you right now. You know what I mean? I could get a discount at the rec places, a tiny little discount everywhere you go. And you can't buy clones anywhere because the state regulations sort of set it to where it was optional for them, and everyone just chooses not to.
Wow.
You can't find it.
So
You can't find a clone here. You can grow in your spot. If you're real
so
sick, you can
legally,
grow 15
I'm
plants.
sorry to cut you off. So legally, there is nowhere to go get clones from. Is it legal to per se pass clone to clone, like from person to person?
At that point, I mean, my lawyer would be like, yeah, that's probably a gray area, those type of transactions. When rec shifted over from when everything moved from medical to rec, one of the things that sort of lynched rec in was the removal of hand-to-hands with medical patients. So that sort of like the last holdout of medical for a couple years was these medical markets where there were like real medical growers in the trenches growing killer medical herb and treating themselves and sharing it with other patients and having like keen observations on it, having personal relations with the plant, being really involved in what to me the culture really is, which is being in your garden, getting with your plants and trying to grow the best herb that you can. But these guys were the last holdouts, and when they took hand-to-hands away, essentially what they did was attempt to make those guys criminals. And the state, in my opinion, they're criminals. And I'll see you guys at the next session on January 30th when I'm an advocate. And you know how I feel about you crooks. I'll be in there, just like I always am, pestering you, me and the 12 other people that usually show up, you know?
That's I asked because my state, Virginia, is in the immediate process right now of switching from medical to recreational. So, excuse me, I want to know some of the things to look out for, some of the things to potentially vote against, or some things to bring awareness to that it could be on the table for us to lose our rights. You know what I mean? So I'm going to shut up and let you speak now. I do want to talk about advocacy too, but we'll bring it up later in the show, man. But I'm all ears, man. Go ahead, please.
Oh, so as far as your transition from medical to rec, so as far as that, what you're going to want to watch for is that every part of the process is shepherded in correctly. So one of the fails that Washington's great. It's the best place to come be a person and grow weed. Actually, it's the friendliest place. It's still got medical. You can have up to 15 plants just as a regular schmo. A lot of the homies are involved in rec, working rec, have rec brands. You know what I mean? Shout out Semicolon, which is our rec brand here that promotes mental health awareness. Shout out Bam Bam, you know what I mean? XO28, Grand Poppy Marco, you know what I'm saying? That's the team, that's the crew, and those guys work in those milieus and represent us. They use our genetics. They take advice from us. You know what I mean? They're just our partners and our team and our network. And here, everyone is at a point where the beefing is done. So even as spicy as the medical situation was and the transition to rec, like you're going to have to go through some change. It's going to be a little dramatic. You're going to have like little issues with it, and people are going to click up and not get along for a minute. At least that's how it worked here. But now at this point in 2024, we're well into it quite a ways. And the players that are involved in rec that used to be with us in the trenches are loved and supported, and they're in the sessions. The medical guys that are in the trenches, still doing the real work, still treating the 6,000 patients in Western Washington that I'm aware of. You know what I mean? Every day, every week, just making sure that they're okay, that they got their medicine as sick as they are. Those guys are at the sessions. You know what I mean? The indie cats that are just here for the plant. They're like, oh, maybe I'm a computer nerd. Maybe I'm a solo guy. Maybe I'm just a grower's grower. You know what I mean? I'm a grow shop hanging around. Those guys are at the sessions here. You know what I mean? Our influencers are at the sessions. There's all the homies show up, all rappers, anyone in Tacoma that's really with the culture and the scene. And here, it's got a real urban feel to it. But medical also represents a lot of people from the rural communities coming here and vibing with us. You know, cannabis is one of the best way. It's like a lubricant for cultural exchange and friendship.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
So we all smoke.
Tell me this, man. Where did you get your start, bro? Like, how did Mr. J 710 just come about, man? What was early days like for Mr. J?
So in the 90s, I was just a kid and I was growing seeds that my buddies had brought up from Mexico that I had met in the 90s at school. You know what I mean? And seeds that I got out of bags that a lot of times adults, I started so young that a lot of times adults didn't even want to mess with me. And then I found some crews here that I looked a little older and they were a little friendly to it. You know what I mean? And they let me hang around and trim when they had cropped, or they fucked around with me and made me like play cribbage. Shout out to the Campo Verde crew for making me play a game I can't even understand for like 6 months just to get a bag of weed. But, you know, after a while, we have an exchange and I start asking them questions. How do you get it this good? What am I doing wrong? Where can I improve my game?
Where did you get your start, bro? Like, you 20 years in the game, ran across any and all people that I probably want to have conversations with, man. But how did it start?
So it started just as a kid, man. Someone had gotten me stoned. You know, I smoked some weed, and it was kind of what I was looking for right then. I really enjoyed that first high that I had. I had a really great time. It was an amazing experience, and I felt like it was sort of the remedy. I had some little ailments when I was a kid. I had a type of neuralgia that's kind of rare, so I would have been considered an early medical patient. You know, and I started consuming cannabis whenever I could, and immediately was, you know, obviously back then there was seeds in weed quite frequently. So pretty quick, I had back seed. And then some of my partners had come up here from Mexico and they had brought some seed with them. And we started fucking around and immediately just went to town from there. And we had kind of had our own weed. We had our own situation going on. Then from there, you know, you end up trading with people. One of my partner's dads got out of prison and was growing with me. There was a period with my older cousins where I was trimming with some older crews with them. There's some guys that like I would buy weed from older dudes whenever I could, whenever they would let me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times guys would be like, "No, you're just a kid." At that point in my life. For sure. But that's kind of how it went. You know, you end up playing cribbage with the dude for 6 months to get some gardening tips and some blueberry seeds, but that's the fucking way that it goes, you know?
Yeah. And so we're gonna jump into how did the book come about, man? What was the fight like trying to get it published, man? Like, and for the people that don't know, won't you tell them the name of the book and where they can find it? Just go ahead and plug that right now.
So I'm the author of Homegrown Marijuana. You can find that right now on Amazon. You just type in Homegrown Marijuana by Joshua Sheets. It'll come right up for you. Amazon might have like 30, 40 copies left. At this point, it's on its final run since we published it way back in 2015. It's the first DIY home cannabis gardening book on a major publisher. That was kind of a big deal.
For sure.
I wrote it in prison, circa like 2010, when I was working for Peninsula College there. So when I had worked my way down to a minimum security, because I had been busted for growing weed on the reservation, pretty major. So I did a pretty good bid. And when I was kind of at the back end of that bid, they let me in a minimum work for the college since I was a certified horticulturist. Then I went through with the college and did all the courses real quick and graduated President's List with them, and then stayed on 2 years as a paid TA and kind of worked in academia as a horticultural instructor, gave lectures, taught classes, graded tests, gave people tips. I think I had been in the game, 10, 15 years at that point. and even a lot of the downtime when I was down in prison, I was still gardening, just not cannabis specifically.
For sure. And what did you want people to get out of that book? Like, why was it important for you to write that?
I started writing when I was in there in prison. It's not the greatest time in the world, and sometimes you got a lot of free time, especially at the upper custody levels. I started out in what's called closed here in Walla Walla in the state penitentiary. So that's like a supermax facility. Technically, I think it would be called in California. Like it's a secured housing unit, and you're really only outside of yourself for a tiny bit during the day, unless you have a vital specific role, like you work in the kitchen or something.
Right.
It's like you get 3 hours a yard a day, and half of it is in some weird little handball court that's just right outside the unit, and the other half is a big yard. Maybe you got a job where you wipe the tables and like put the salt shakers out and shit before the meal, so you come out 10 minutes early, but the rest of the time you're in the cell, stuffed in there. So by the time I had gotten to like media minimum, I would like smash the library when I would get bored, and I would get like somehow figure out how to get access to the library, get on the library call out, get the gate, get over there, grab as many books as I could, and just smash whole sections of the library. Like I'm really a huge true crime fan, like obviously being a cannabis criminal, and I just want to read about what all the other guys do and the antics and shit. It's pretty entertaining. So I'll smash those whole sections. But a lot of times I was reading gardening books, older gardening books too, like the kind that would find their way, to prison libraries at minimum, medium, maximum security. So I basically read everything you could find, in these libraries. And then I started thinking about my gardening experiences, really obsessing on the plant, especially since I was away from it like that, and the way that weed would enter, unless the homies threw it over the wall, you know what I'm saying? It was coming in some nefarious manner I don't want nothing to do with, like up a keister or in guard's pocket or some shit. And I don't even want nothing to do with that.
Like on the movie Life, you know how they're getting them in here, right?
99% of the time I wasn't getting high and shit.
I know the motherfuckers bring it in.
99% of the time I wasn't getting fucking squirrely out of that is really unusual. So we're excited. It's definitely a kickback to some of the parents or grandparents. And it's just cool to get a hold of those old genes inside of an S1 lot. But the trick is you got to run a lot of the beans. You can't, if you're going to run 6, you're not going to get it. You're just going to end up with trash, which sucks. But that's the reality of things. Like you just really taking a lotto status risk with a tiny lot size. You want to do, you're growing something like haze, something older. You want to do 50, 100, and then take a peek at what you got. And it sounds extreme, but trust me, it's fucking not. It's not. Monsanto does like 1,000.
So my homeboy, he was really into landrace genetics. So I bought him some Cali Ram and shipped it over to Spain to him. Well, he F2'd them and sent them back to me, right? Well, he didn't F2 them. He just open pollinated them, is what I meant to say. And when they got back, I grew 2 out. One was male, one was female. And I only grew. But then I've seen other people like Landrace Mafia, and including my homie Pedro, when he grows it, bro. The Cali Ram's beautiful plant, bro. I just had an ugly ass pheno that I didn't have the time for to fucking let it grow out. It was, a long flowering plant. But, bro, so I read this article from a part farmer's daughter, right? When you guys get a chance, man, I would go check this article out and check her website out. But she wrote an article on you, bro, about the incident that happened back in, I want to say it was 2017. Am I correct?
Yeah. Shout out to the pot farmer's daughter. Definitely go check out her page. It's one of the best photographers in cannabis. And then you can see, she's got just amazing takes on stuff and cool little stories and just incredible photography. So if you need a photographer, if you're in the cannabis space, if you just want to check out that type of content, I highly recommend sliding over to that page. Yeah, that incident was in 2017. I was making BHO just like this, and I had an accident. You know what I mean? A life-threatening accident and an incredible explosion. And
Beautiful.
miraculously I was able to survive that. You know what I mean? And I'm tough enough to sit here and talk to you on camera today about it.
So for my listeners, bro, so some of my listeners doesn't know what it entails when you make BHO. What are you doing when you are making BHO solvent hash or extract? Could you go into that for a little bit?
Yeah, just like theoretically, conceptually, so I'm also the contributing editor of Beyond Bud's Next Generation 2, and that's kind of like a hash guidebook, like sort of an encompassing encyclopedia of different hash methods and edibles and oils and how they're made and how they're used, and just how the whole get down with hash, right? In general, from BHO to rosin to old school hash to bubble hash, dry sift. We had everything in that book. I'm the contributing editor to that. Ed and Greg Zeman wrote that. Shout out, Greg.
Shout out Greg. Shout out Ed.
Shout out, Greg, man. During the writing of that, I was helping some companies transition in California from the medical space to the recreational space, and I had taken on some work extracting. I consider myself at that time, I was one of the premier extractors, I think, especially from my region. So I slid down there just to do as it helped them transition into from the 215 market space into what their rec is now. Unfortunately, I had an accident at that point in time, and um, there was an explosion basically in the lab, and I was in NorCal. We had just hosted like a cup. I was down there with some of the Marine bros, and they were running a company, and just it popped. It was like 110 degrees out. We're not really sure exactly what happened. I know that there was a gas leak, and I covered up, and things just blew up. Jettisoned me right out of the laboratory. There was an accompanying fire, and then like a near-death experience. Essentially, I took a lot of burn damage. You still there?
So you were talking about what happened out in at the lab.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was there packing up and finishing a run, and we had an explosion. It was really hot that day. We were up at a high elevation. I was lucky enough to hear sort of the equipment fail and cover up. It's like my face and my vital area, and then I was jettisoned outside the laboratory from the explosion itself. So again, I was really lucky. I received third-degree burns to 85% of my body. And the result of that is like 7. I think I have 17 skin grafts at this point, and you can see I've got like a little texture all over. I immediately removed all tattoos from the Marine Corps, that type of thing, just gone instantly like that. And I spent a few months in a coma and in the hospital. I wore another guy's skin for a while my skin was like taken off and then doubled out in a laboratory and placed back onto me. That whole process was pretty grueling. At that point, I kind of I kicked off of the drugs. I didn't like the subs. I have aversions to certain opiates. So I just they don't rock with me, and I don't rock with them well. So I was like, don't give me shit.
I don't know.
I tore down our VPN, so we'll see. I use my hands to block my face. You know what I'm saying, and that type of thing. And it threw me out. It burned me up pretty good. I'm burnt third degree to 85% of my body. At that point, it was a couple months of a coma, where like I wore another dude's skin for a while the rest of my skin was peeled off, and then kind of doubled out in a laboratory, and then patched back onto me. Like I've got my feet on my hands and a bunch of other crazy stuff like that. But miraculously, I survived it, and I sort of have an aversion to opiates. I don't rock with them, and they don't rock with me. So they were giving me those in the hospital. I started denying them, and I was pretty roughed up still. So it was ouch, you know what I mean, type situation. And I started looking at getting out of California as quickly as possible since I had uh, essentially committed a pretty serious felony there. And there's no being caught red-handed like blowing yourself up making BHO, right? So I'm my lawyer had come down, a few of my closest homies had made the trip. My lawyer was like, "Man, the detectives have come in, things are pretty spicy. You're in and out of consciousness, so it's not a big deal." But like, he was dealing with it, type of situation. So as soon as I could get cognizant, I signed some waivers and was like, I'm of sound-minded body to make decisions for myself. And I petitioned my insurance company to shoot me back to Washington to do the rest of the skin grafts, the aftercare, and kind of resume sort of my recovery from that really horrific incident, right? Unbeknownst to the staff at the hospital and the insurance company, I was on the run from the law, technically. So as soon as I get up to Washington, I'm like 2-3 months in the hospital. As soon as I can move around and shake and bake, I'm gone. And then I'm out in the street. I told them like October 20th, I'm leaving no matter what. Like, we just better have me ready to go. And that was about 6 to 9 months early. There's not really a lot of like precedent for someone as burned as I am, unfortunately. But for someone near my burn, they would want to do like 6 to 9 more months at that point. So it would have been like 18 to 24 months in the hospitals. And I'm not a huge fan of the hospitals. And so I got out, immediately started using cannabis again instead of any sort of medications that they gave me. They gave me like a bag full of medication, and I just didn't take those and went back to cannabis. That was a blessing. It's a blessing to have the plant to be able to do things like that with. Sure. And then from there, I was on the lam for a couple years. So I'm just like moving from spot to spot. I'm cooking BHO. I'm slanging it at nightclubs. I'm out in the streets, moving work. I'm moving and grooving and just ducking Johnny Law, for a couple years. I still had a seed line then that I just stashed away. I would stash a whole bunch of seed away with my partner in case anything happened, and he would just hold on to it for me, and boom, I come back and recheck it back out from him, run another lot, find some selections, and keep moving forward with that. The last of those seeds had been popped to make more seed with, to do an OP, just to get more stock to set a way to do that. So I'd run down to the last of the seed at that point, and during that run, I got pinched on the reservation. I blew a tire, and the cops pulled up to help me. You know what I'm saying? And it all went bad from there. So I end up on a chain, all burned up from Tacktown to Sacktown. So I've got the dubious honor of going to every county jail from Tacktown to Sacktown. If you're a dirtbag in a county jail somewhere, I probably met you. So on the West Coast, unfortunately. And that was kind of the trip with that. You know what I mean? That's really the whole story. And the recovery took a long time, but I'm back now, and things are looking really good. I basically am at a full recovery, so I'm out and about, moving and grooving.
Man, that's awesome, man. That cannabis was able to get you through. I can only imagine the excruciating pain that comes with burns, and with you not being on opioids and only using cannabis, man, just a testament of how wonderful this plant really is,
It's incredible.
So,
it's incredible,
man. Who's your most influential mentor in the cannabis industry, whether they be here on Earth or have passed?
Man, 100,000%, it's Ed Rosenthal, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was sliding in and out of prisons, that dude would put money on my books. You know what I'm saying? He'd answer my phone calls. He'd go call my lawyer. You know what I'm saying? If things were funky, he'd be the liaison for me. His people, his people inside of his publishing company, QuickTime, were amazing at that period. And there were moments where I was finishing editing books with him and talking on video chats with his staff and the homies behind me. And it was just like, you're just not going to get those type of moments with other people. Only a real one is going to ride with you when
No, for
you
sure.
when you got to go do time and shit like that. So I fuck with Ed the long way. A lot of people don't like him for like dubious reasons, and you know who you are out there. You don't like Ed for no reason, or you say crazy stuff like he's greedy because he wanted to put some ads in a couple of his books. Well, guess what? I was the one that was calling around putting the ads in the books. So look, this is the bad guy right here, and you can come talk to me about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That dude is solid, bro. It's to put money on a cat's books like mine when I'm down like that, or to answer the phone or to hit them up. It's so different to go do a prison bid and have someone that's going to ride with you on the outs and at least just talk to
For
you
sure.
than it is to just
No,
do
for
it by
sure.
yourself. So it's
No,
Ed
big time.
Rosenthal, man, for me, all the way.
That's awesome, man. I know Ed Rosenthal, in my opinion, and is just he was picked the person mentioned so much, as a young guy in the cannabis industry, bro. When I first started back in like 2006, those are the books and internet forums I was looking for. So for you to be, a friend of Ed Rosenthal, I think you've even edited 2 books for him, right? If I'm mistaken.
Yeah,
I
man,
think that's pretty
I had
dope.
the pleasure of working with him on a couple of pieces. It was great.
And that's dope as fuck, bro. Um, I see myself, man, from where I started. I started this journey in the military. I was still in the cannabis. I was just low key with it. I would do my research on my own off time. You can't stop me from reading, right? I'm pretty sure if they would have knew I was reading cannabis material, they probably would have advised against it or some shit. But a lot of my first connections, like I said, I couldn't say too much because I was in the military and I was even growing in the military. So for me now being out in the open and retired from the military and just even secondhand mingling with the people that I just grew up to, shall I say, is pretty dope in my opinion, bro. Um, you got any other cool stories about you and Ed?
Shoot. So how I met Ed was I had my book come out in 2015, right? So I'm like the Washington
Yeah.
guy. I'm the Washington home grow book guy, right? So I'm the author, local author from here. We had at that point a get together called Hempfest where over 1 million people would come to a park in Seattle over the course of 2 or 3 days, and 1 million
Damn.
people would show up, and it was like they used to call it a protestable. So it was like people would come and speak and be like, oh, we want weed for the people and we wanted the plant to be free and stuff. Or they'd have their little situations as it got closer to medical and rec. The speeches got more like specific and direct. Like there was a point where I was like speaking about PGRs and just trying to like get the word out on what the definition is and how encompassing it is. And some are dangerous and some aren't. So
Could you go into that, bro? I'm sorry to cut you off, but again, my audience uses PGR so much, and I don't even think they really know what they are.
just real quick, loosely, PGR stands for plant growth regulator. So in a very open, loose form of the definition of it, it could be anything that regulates the growth of your plant, whether it be, alfalfa meal, because it's got a molecule in it when it breaks down that changes what the plant does right then, or whether it be, a hard chemical like triple C, that just makes the plant blow up, or paclobutrazol, or which is an old one in bottles that a lot of people are familiar with, like just bloom boosters in general. We used to have that in it,
Okay.
quite a bit of them. I mean, phospholode, shit like that, you know?
Okay, cool. All right, so Hempfest.
So Hempfest up here used to have 1 million people come. It was like a protestable. Excuse me. We had a little hemposium set up. So it was everyone who was an author that was there. I think Sonny Chiba was there, DJ Short, Ed, me, and we were all talking about, you know, cannabis, genetics, breeding. We were answering questions from the audience, and it was just kind of a general setup, sort of a meet us and then ask us questions and talk about some general topics. I gave my opinions. I talked for a little bit. At that point, I was going as I had dropped the outlaw chef moniker. You know what I mean? Just because the outlaw nature of it, and picked up, I think the real Dr. Green Thumb was my Instagram at that point. When they announced me, Short kind of like rolled his eyes and started the sass. And that's where all the bullshit began. You know what I'm saying? So my people told me in the audience that there was like he was visibly like weird when I was speaking and shit. So I went and had words with him. I talked to him about how, you know, some lines just express blueberry and actually have nothing to fucking do with them. And to be like so audacious as to claim a terpene profile belonged to you is out of fucking control. And he's an egomaniac. So he was pretty pissed. Ed thought that shit was pretty funny, and Jane, I think. And then we had a chat, you know what I mean? And they took a look at my book, and through the course of a few exchanges back and forth, we ended up working together on a couple projects and being friends, and like solid friends the long way. Like that, I fuck with that dude. He supported me in a time when no one else did. You know what I'm saying? That's real shit.
Yeah. No, that's definitely real shit, man. We love real shit over here, bro. So shout out to Ed, man, and shout out to Ed for being there while you did that bid. That's I know how important it is. You know, you being a fellow vet. I've never been to prison or jail, but I've been on deployments, and I know how it is to need that phone call and for somebody to answer on that other line. You know, so yeah, shout out to Ed, bro.
Yeah.
So what's one piece of advice you'll give someone starting off in the industry?
Starting off in the industry, like if you want to make money professionally in cannabis, like you're not just a street hustler anymore or hobbyist. Sure. Like you want to go into the rec side of things or your branding. So if you're an independent guy, my advice to you is to gather up your tools and make unique, amazing intellectual property, and then brand that property, attempt to protect that intellectual property, and then move forward with that with a marketing plan. So that you're able to enter the market space with something to offer the rest of us in the community. If you have something unique and amazing, man, everyone's just going to love that. You know, a lot of times people come in with like a copy of someone else's shit or a hodgepodge that nobody wants, or the same old gelato over again. You know what I'm saying? Or some reiteration of runts that's trash instead of a good runts cross. Then you end up with all just this mess, this big tidal wave of bullshit. But if everyone kind of focused a little bit harder on the actual gardening aspects of it and selecting good stock and moving forward with fire, then we would all have more fire to work with. Because fire, my friend, begets fire. Trust me, I've been burnt. And fire begets fire.
Man, I can't wait to clip that. Let's go straight up, man. Straight up. During your journey, right? What's one thing that you did not expect that came at you?
Haters, man. I really didn't think that there were like shife, just ridiculous, hill troll, horrible haters out there that have knock accounts. I didn't expect like decent guys like Tino to have just piece of shits orbiting them and just trash dudes like Squeaky being horrible and acting foul. You know, I didn't expect the levels of fuckery, like just dirtbags making horrible memes about people and being ridiculous. I didn't expect like the immaturity. I didn't expect like punk rock bullshit or people switching up real quick to where if you watch them for a year, they actually change what they do instead of staying real steady. Those are type of things that I did not expect, and I would definitely watch out for. And that's why I recommend everyone get their tools, sharpen their tools, and then use their own tools to make fire to go forward with. We all want to see just unique fire. We want to see artisans work. At this point, if you want to work rec side, like the homies, like Semicolon and Exo 28, if you want to crush huge crops and be a real grower's grower, and that's your thing, that's your get down, go get a job growing. Go apply at every spot that you can in your area, and tell them you love the plant, you want to grow the plant, and you're eager to get in there and just work, and you'll get a job. You'll get one, man. I mean, if your state is rec side like that, if you're gonna green rush a spot, be a good green rusher. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's bad green rushers and there's archetypes and stereotypes of that. And I know positive green rush stories where we're stoked with the dude that came here that's a sick grower. You know, one of my partners is one. And it's incredible when that happens. So if you're gonna go to a place and try to work rec side, be an asset to that place. You know what I mean? Like, get involved in the local area. Be cool. Don't go there and be a jerk. You know what I mean? Or don't go there and fail hard because you suck. Like, really fucking try, But because that period was pretty sketchy here when everyone was here trying to grow weed in Washington for no reason. We even had a lot of California guys here.
For sure, man. That is, I think this is gonna be a dope interview, man. I appreciate you gracing my stage, man. I appreciate you taking time out your busy day to be on the Business is Blooming podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Can I shout out a couple people real quick, my guy?
I was just gonna say, man, any last words, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. The movement in Tacoma is rising, and everybody's getting down. There's a ton of new underground music coming out. You got Louie, you got Shoulders the Loke, you got Kari Christmas, you got the East Side Originals, Slim Hoods the Loke. Just incredible music. Dudes that smoke weed and grow weed and are around the plant too. You know what I'm saying? It's part of our culture here. It always has been. Shout out to the Dab Stars, the Jonah Tacoma, Nick the Brit. You know what I'm saying? Jer, the CEO, Ron Bass, Thunderfuck. Shout out Ron. Ron's got an MTFC drop coming out soon. Definitely, look for that. That Matanuska Valley Thunderfuck has a real distinct smell and nice. Carry through in flavor, and it's good tree, man. Definitely blow that. I highly recommend it. We love that Alaska tree here in Washington. That's definitely, I'll trade my herb for that anytime. Let's mix it up. You know what I'm saying? I fuck with it. So shout out to all the people in Tacoma, rocking hard and smoking. You know what's up.